Let's get straight to looking at the activities in the morning fixed income market. Now, the overnight lending rate contracted by 183 basis points to 6.5%, despite funding pressure from the net Nigeria Treasury bills issuance is estimated at 15.37 billion. So let's bring in Mr. John Kanayo, our guest, who a regular analyst on the fixed income market, to talk to us on the activities yesterday. Mr. John Kanayo is research and strategies, Imperial Asset Managers Limited. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Kanayo. I needed to bring us to speed. Yes, good morning to you.
Good morning, Frank, and thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, talk to us about the activities in the morning and the fixed income market on Thursday.
Okay, thank you. System liquidity closed at 142.75 billion. There was an NTB auction settlement. NTB that was done on Wednesday was settled on Thursday. So system liquidity closed lower at 142.75 billion. You come into money market as such, because NTB was marginally up compared to what we have as at Wednesday. We saw open money market rate overnight and open repo rate contracting. Overnight was down by 83 basis points to settle at 7.5, as you have mentioned. Omo market remained flat, obviously because yield in that segment is still very low. At NCB market closed flat, though we saw demand coming in at the short end of the curve, particularly August 2022, which yield was down by 15 basis points. However, we saw sell pressure coming on at the mid end of the curve on October 2022, where yield went up by 17 basis points. At the end of the day, average yield in this segment of the market was flat. Average yield remains at 4.20%. At the bond market, treasury bond market, activities were bullish in this segment of the market. At the short end of the curve, there were selling pressures, particularly on March 25, March 27. March 25, yield was up by 3 basis points. March 2027, yield was up by 7 basis points. At the end of the day, in this segment of treasury bond market, average yield was down, was up by 2 basis points. At the mid end, we saw buying interest, particularly on across this mid end of this market. There was significant demand. At the end of the day, average yield was down by 9 basis points. At the long end of the curve, there was sell-off, particularly on January 2042. Average yield yield for 2042 was up by 3 basis points. Average yield at the long end of the curve was down by 1 basis point. You put this on the balance of factor for Nigeria bond market, average yield was down by 4 basis points. That tells us that the market was bullish. Average yield settled at 11.59%. This is summary of market as of Thursday, 2022.
Okay. You talked about the fact that the yield was low in the open market operations segment of the market earlier.
Yeah.
Talk to us why that happened. What was the factor responsible for the low yield in that segment of the market?
Okay, like I said, system liquidity was marginally higher than what we had as at Wednesday, and there were inflows from maturing home bills and NCVs worth 182.59 billion. If you recall, on Wednesday, CBN was in the market, in the primary segment of NCB market, to conduct home auction. About 167.22 billion was offered to investors. That was settled yesterday. This settlement drop system liquidity a little bit lower compared to what it opened on Thursday morning. As such, because of this significant funding pressure in this segment of the market, the money market rate contracted by the figure we have. Like I said, overnight was down by 83 basis points to settle at 7.50%.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you what is likely to dominate the market or play out in the market in the coming days. Of course, today is the last business day of the week. Yes, inflation figures are expected to start coming in next week. So what is likely to change? What do we expect to see in that market?
Okay. If you look at on the management, on the open market and NTB market, the yields still remain low, and this has been the controlling sentiment market participants put into this segment of the market. What would have driven this market over time now, ever since NPC had meeting, would have been system liquidity. But system liquidity, every now and then when we see going up, in order to control liquidity in the financial market, usually coming to tweak it. And as such, we have in the secondary segment of the market, we have always seen almost trading flat and NTB remaining low. We expect this to continue to happen next week. On Wednesday next week, there will be another NTB auction. The total figure I don't have now. But we expect that the market will likely move into prepare ahead and move into NTB auction market or primary market in order to get whatever they can get, which we expect to be higher than what secondary market currently offering. At the bond segment of the market, we expect improved activity to continue to dominate the mid and the long end of the curve as market continue to anticipate that DMO at the forthcoming board auction scheduled on the 20th of June will likely push spot rates on the three major tenants that will be offered higher.
Let me quickly come in. You talk about a primary auction, right? You know, primary auction, you talked about that will happen next week, Wednesday. And that will coincide
for Treasury bills market.
Okay, for Treasury bills market. That will coincide with the inflation figures expected to be released by the NBS next week, Wednesday.
That's true.
Yes. So do you see that's affecting how investors will play or will appreciate that auction in the market that day?
Obviously, it's going to have an impact. Yeah, it's going to have an impact to the secondary market. The primary market, it might not be, because the primary market is an avenue where CBN will come and give market the direction where they want it to go. And if you remember that MPR was recently pushed up, what we have been seeing CBN doing over time in respect to onshore market has been pushing spot rate up. The essence of it, obviously CBN has already factored into its working.
Okay, all right.
Inflation will likely go up. So,
okay. Let me quickly come in because of our time. Okay. Pardon me for jumping in there because of our time. Let me take you to the currency market now.
Yes.
Yesterday, the Naira appreciated or depreciated rather by 0.5%, selling at 422 Naira 50 kobo. That's in the investors and exporters window, not in the black market or the parallel market, as you call it, or pair-to-pair. Do we have any figure now or any update on the exchange rate within these various markets now?
You just pointed the exchange rate at in the I and E window. Obviously, yesterday, our Naira closed in this segment of the market at 422.50 kobo compared to $1. The Naira depreciated by 2 Naira 25 kobo. That's
yes. What I'm saying. Drop. Yes, what I'm saying is that, I mean, if you have that figure now, how much is it now in the market currently?
Oh, no, and I've not got.
I don't know if you don't. Okay, you don't have that figure.
As we speak.
Not figure yet. Oh, okay. It's all right. I think we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Mr. John Kanayo, is Head Research and Strategies in Imperial Asset Managers Limited. Thank you for your time on Business Breakfast.
Thank you, Frank, for having me, and you are welcome.
All right.